After a towering inferno at Disneyland in 2024, Fantasmic was canceled. Now Fantasmic is back, and Maleficent has not returned in the form that we expected. But we have additional information about when the dragon is returning. Yes, let's talk about it on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is one of the most connected men in the theme park industry, Mr. VashSky. Vash, you have additional info, don't you? But we need context before we get to it, don't you?
We do. We absolutely do. And before, I don't want to bury the lead here, folks, but the story of Fantasmic up until this point has been very interesting. So let's go ahead and let's start from the very beginning, because people are reacting strongly to these things. And this is to provide a little bit of context for people who are, I mean, some people are outraged, Jonas. I don't know if you've seen the chatter online.
I've seen some pretty angry people, and I've seen some pretty milquetoast cope from people trying to cover this whole thing. It's both disappointing because some of the more shilly people are reacting and defending Disney for bringing it back, but not in its full. It's a free show. I'm like, no, it's not a free show. It's in a super expensive. It's included in the costs breakdown of your super expensive theme park ticket. So no, it's not a free show. They're using it to market the park. It's not free. It's no additional charge, but it definitely isn't free.
It is not free, and we'll talk about how not free it is in a moment. But back in May 19th of 2023, this was only, I believe, a month after the fire. The fire took place that burned down Murphy so catastrophically was on April 22nd, 2023. So that's kind of the foundation here. And Scott Gustin reported last year at the time, Fantasmic at Disneyland will remain on hiatus through at least Labor Day. Now we know that it was on hiatus until Memorial Day of the next year. Disneyland, we are taking this time to evaluate the show and explore opportunities to add new magic and touches for guests to enjoy. So a lot of people got really excited about that. You'll note that at around this time as well, Fantasmic at Disney's Hollywood Studios added a few new segments in order to replace their kind of aging Pocahontas segment as part of that version of the entertainment spectacular. So a lot of people were thinking, what are we getting here? A lot of people had their wish lists. Obviously, another Murphy was at the top of the list, or another Maleficent dragon, I should say.
That's right, because people don't understand. Well, I mean, maybe they understand why the dragon is called Murphy, but that got that nickname well before it became a towering blaze in the middle of Disneyland.
Yes, it did. And the reason why it earned that name was because back in 2008, I want to say, yes, 2008, leading up to 2009, Disneyland had a promotion called Summer Night-tastic, and they had all these entertainment spectaculars as part of that promotion that they had to either refurbish and so forth. So you had like a new float added to Electrical Parade that played at Disney California Adventure, for example. And as part of that promotion, they added and replaced what was a kind of Murphy's head on a stick, or Maleficent dragon on a stick. They replaced that with an actual audio animatronic dragon. This thing was massive. It was, I think, 45 feet tall, and it was based on some of the original designs the Imagineers had back in 1992 when this originally premiered. And it was this, breathing fire, life-size thing, and it was outrageous. However, the reason why I got the tag Murphy was because it didn't make that Summer Night-tastic promotional date that was supposed to debut with. And remember, a lot of the marketing materials made a lot to do about this dragon. I remember commercials at the time highlighting the dragon. All the banners and stuff that you saw around the resort had the dragon on it, and yet the dragon was nowhere to be seen in the show in time for that Summer Night-tastic promotion. So that was very disappointing, and that's why Murphy, as according to Murphy's Law, what can't go wrong will. Kind of a shorthand thing, but
which is, of course, that name only became more true as time went on.
Yes,
I do believe that your involvement in this channel and the WDW Pro channel, we've had a lot of coverage of those Maleficent dragons. I don't want to jump ahead here, but how far are we from the shutdown of all Fantasmics?
So that's an interesting thing. So the Fantasmic at Hollywood Studios, I think it just kind of happened to be under a refurbishment process at the time that this incident happened. what really affected all Disney parks was the use of pyrotechnics, specifically fire, in all those in all their shows. So World of Color, for example, featured fire. That was temporarily removed. I believe the Maleficent dragon that was part of the day parade at Magic Kingdom, that was removed temporarily because really the resorts division, the experiences division, was really undergoing a full process to find out just exactly what happened in Murphy's case, and if that would happen to any of these other, pyrotechnic effects across the resort line. So that's kind of where that story
right. And I would say that that's the right thing to do when you have a giant blaze in the middle of your theme park that has, thousands, tens of thousands of guests every single day. And by the way, that fire is near trees. I'm not trying to over dramatize it, but at the same time, it's something that had to be dealt with. The correct thing to do in a case like this is to overcorrect and then pull it back to try to show everyone that you take things very seriously. Like there was an incident at a theme park at Hollywood Studios. Sorry, not at Hollywood Studios, at the Seven Seas Lagoon. That was right around the time that the Shanghai parks opened up, and involving an animal and an attack. Disney did more than they had to do in order to deal with that.
Yeah.
So that they could say, and they did the right thing here by trying to make it right for everyone. They don't want to look like they don't care, and they don't want to look like they don't care specifically about everyone's safety. So the parks are forever changed when dangerous things happen. So now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about some of the commentary that has been made on its return. Vash, do you want to talk about that first?
Yes, let's go over some of that commentary and why that is necessarily taking place, because the timing here is very important. As part of the lead up to Fantasmic coming back, Disney just started to sell these dining packages again. And these dining packages are not cheap. You can kind of see right there at the top of your screen, adult lunch at $90 for a dining package at Blue Bayou. That includes the preferred seating along the river's edge right there. And this is different from like Disney's Hollywood Studios' version, for example, where you have like a like an auditorium. That is not the same setup here.
Okay. So theme park prices on dinners are pretty expensive. Anyways, by the way, I love this isn't the first time ever, but I only recently found out that they actually do give out paper fast passes for Fantasmic. So when I saw one of these things, I had this moment of hope of like, is it true? Has the king returned back to the park?
Oh no, your heart will long forevermore, Jonas. I do apologize. That is not what's happening here. But I want to kind of illustrate that they started selling packages to Fantasmic and its return before the debut of the show, or people had any understanding that Maleficent in dragon form wasn't actually making its return for the show. And so people bought in thinking that extra magic that Scott Gustin was talking about before was to incorporate this dragon again, and it hasn't. Now there are a couple of things that have been added. For example, I believe in 2017 when the show originally went down to allow for the construction of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge just beyond it, a new version of the show premiered, and the formerly Peter Pan scene had been replaced with Jack Sparrow and Pirates of the Caribbean scene. That Peter Pan scene has been restored, this time with the Lost Boys, which is cool. A lot of people saying that was new, and it's like, no, this segment's not new. It was there for almost 30 years, but that's okay. This is this replacement to Maleficent in dragon form, which is essentially just Maleficent as she raises as part of the regular show, and then she just kind of stays there. And honestly, that's always kind of been the B mode for this segment right here. And a lot of people are upset that, again, going back to that tweet that we talked about before, I think people were under the illusion that Disney promised that something would make up for the fact that this Maleficent dragon was no longer there, or maybe Maleficent would make her triumphant return. And well, obviously that didn't happen. And again, it was after a lot of those meal packages were already sold.
So it sounds like they were already in a corner. Refunding the meal packages was not something they were going to do. Those are high dollar items. They're not going to send them back. This is something they're capable of doing right here, of having this, by the way, Speaking of the dragon here, that is most likely a male performer doing the Maleficent role. Traditionally, that has been a male performer because a lot of the equipment there is it's physically difficult for a female performer to lift up all of that and do all of the things. It's a very large and heavy rig. So that is most likely a fella there. By the way, there's a lot of prosthetics anyways to obscure the face of the Maleficent character. That chin is a little bit larger. It's also like a many dozens of yards distance from the audience. We brought this up, of course, when we were covering the Evil Queen story over there at Artist Point or Storybook Point or whatever mix of words Disney is using these days. It sounds like, though, Disney is doing everything they can to kind of keep guests happy. There's a tendency at the parks, and the reaction that we've seen is that maybe Disney was trying to pull a fast one here, and there have been instances in the past where Disney has taken something away for a little while for a refurbishment or what sounds like it's going to be an improvement. And when it comes back, it turns out it's not actually an improvement. It's a downgrade. It's something that operations is more happy with than, say, Imagineering. So when you see something like Maleficent comes back, but instead of a 45-foot tall animatronic dragon, it is someone in a Maleficent costume with effects. I'm not saying it's not still spectacular, but it's not the same as a giant fire-breathing dragon. So there is a point that is correct when people say, hey, that's not what I asked for. That's not what I was expecting.
Well, that's the thing, right? The standards have changed. And honestly, we've seen such a reduction of entertainment at the Disneyland Resort specifically. Like I said, that 2,000 space or capacity Hyperion Theater has been vacant for ever since Rogers the Musical was there, and that was last year. We've not had a show at the Fantasmic Theater. We've not had a lot of the entertainment acts that used to proliferate the Disneyland Resort so much. So it's really unfortunate that we again get the short end of the stick, especially with such an incredible show that is Fantasmic. And so a lot of people feel miffed, and especially because of the rising costs to actually go to a place like this. Again, if you bought into those dinner packages, I think for a family of 6, you're paying well over $700 for the Blue Bayou package. And that's including a tip and tax and so forth. So a lot of people were putting a lot on this, and a lot of people have been kind of miffed at Disney for how they've treated the entertainment at Disneyland Resort in the recent years.
I think you make a fair point. Now, as far as the dragon goes, this is where we get into the part that is rumor and speculation. Vash, I wanted to ask you, can we expect to see the dragon back at the parks? And is the dragon, in fact, being built maybe somewhere in London right now, and it's just in production as we speak, and they're working on getting it back to the parks maybe later this year?
All right, I'll add this context here. They are currently working on a replacement. The problem is really, people think, oh, well, it's a $10 million dragon. That's nothing to the Walt Disney Company. But you got to think,
how many cast members' salaries is that?
Exactly, right? So it's not like they can just throw any type of, any amount of money towards this thing. $10 million in entertainment, that's a lot. Disney has foregone all kinds of costs related to Disneyland Resort. $10 million for entertainment, that's a big chunk of cash right there. And obviously it has to be kind of weatherproof, right? So that ups the cost that further. Also, too, it has to be safer than it was before. So there are additional costs.
Right, it has to not catch on fire. It has to spew fire, but not catch on fire. That's a very important feature that they're trying to make sure is incorporated into this latest design.
Correct, right? The relationship between operations and park and WDI, that's in who maintains what and everything like that. That's definitely at issue playing out here. So whatever they do, whatever solution that they implement in the future, it's going to have to be robust. It has to be overbuilt kind of thing. It's going to take a little while, folks, but it is on the way, and hopefully will be better than ever.
Right. And my little joke there about it being there by later this year, we have no idea what the timeline is, but we have heard from some of our sources that it is being manufactured somewhere in the UK right now. I don't know what city it is, but yeah, I think Maleficent is coming back in dragon form and not just in drag form. So that being said, let's throw this to our commenters. Are you happy to hear that Fantasmic is probably going to be coming back? I said there's a dragon coming back. They could still mess this up in some way. That's still within the realm of possibility. Don't let it be said out there that that Park Place said it's going to be great, but they are planning to bring back that dragon. Let us know your thoughts about this entire situation in the comment section down below. Like this video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.